counsel to absorb my sufferings as a punishment for my sin. Wow. I say, don't let others' perceptions scare you from getting the help you need.
Don't do it.
Don't do it. Don't do it. Why? This means that a lot of Christ-centered people suffer alone in silence.
Yes.
Because we're in the church and we don't want anybody to know. We don't want anybody to say, well, how can you do that? If you're doing this, how can you do that? How can you tell me? Because you're still going through. Yeah, that's the whole purpose of us leading people to Christ. To show you that it can be done. To show you the redemptive resurrection power of Christ in any situation. Yeah, that was she, but she ain't me no more.
Yeah.
Just not. So we need to be mindful of that. And these statistics by NAMI, I know I'm a NAMI girl. NAMI is the National Alliance on Mental Illness, where I volunteer and give presentations. I just got through speaking to the police academy this week, and a woman I met Tuesday was here Friday night with her family, her husband, 2 daughters, and her son-in-law, and her grandson. They were here on Friday. So I go into the police departments and do crisis intervention training. I actually go into the psychiatric wards and present to my peers there, because we don't call them clients because they're peers. Yeah. And as one woman said, she said, well, you don't look as crazy as I am. After I said, baby, the only difference between you and me is you're here today and I'm not.
Yeah, that's the only difference.
Only difference. You are here and I'm not, But approximately 1 in 25 adults in the U.S., 9.8 million, experiences a serious mental illness in any given year that substantially interferes with or limits one or more major life activities.
That's a lot.
We're talking about solid statistics. And the actuality is that 1 in 5 people across the world, the statistic stays the same. It doesn't matter what ethnicity. When I did the men's mental health, Brother Doug was like, what? Men, Hispanic men, Black men, Native Indian, and Eskimos were the 4 ethnic groups. They all had the same statistics.
Wow. And
how they did, and what the stress factors were for men across the board, which was finances, family, your career, and one, I can't think of the other one, the 4 major ones. But 18.1% of adults in the U.S. experience an anxiety disorder, such as post-traumatic stress, obsessive compulsive disorder, and specific phobias. Now, we, in the general population, may think, people say, oh, she's just obsessive compulsive. You ain't seen obsessive compulsive until you've seen obsessive compulsive. Like Elder Tracy used to tell me, girl, you just obsessive. You going around checking locks. I'm checking locks because the neighborhood we live in check. I want to make sure we're locked up in here. That's what I'm doing, But other obsessive behaviors may be something different. And actually, sometimes coming to church is an obsessive behavior. Because it's your escape, not yours. You know what I'm saying? It's an escape. It's the way people get high. They come to church to get high, and they go back home and deal with what they have to deal with. But guess what? Jeremiah 1:5 says, before I shaped you in the womb, I knew all about you.
That's so
Before
good.
you saw the light of day, I had holy plans for you.
Yes,
a prophet to the nations. That's what I had in mind for you. And there's nobody sitting in this room can tell me that Shepherd's Heart Evangelistic Ministries is not, as a corporate body, a prophet to the nations.
Yes.
And individually.
Yes.
You prophesy too. Prophecy is just speaking the heart of God.
Yes.
And that's in what we do and in what we say. Everybody in this room is a prophet to the nation.
Yes.
Because how do I know that? Because the word of the Lord just told me.
That's what he said.
So all those myths cannot be true. If he played me, I cannot be a disappointment to God, because he formed me and shaped me and knew what? All about me. Peak performance, I'm coming back to it. Just as a reminder, I say this because I what? Know what I'm planning for you. I will give you hope and what? A good future. Regardless what it looks like. If you had told me in 2016, because my plan was to retire from VCU in the position I was in or go higher, but I was going to retire from VCU, I really was, that my life would look like what it looks today, I would not have believed you. Because just 2 months before I came off my job, I was actively looking for a house. So you couldn't tell me my plans to be living with somebody. No, I want some pink walls. You don't like pink.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? But he knew what was happening. He already knew. He had holy plans for me, and he has given me a good future.
Yeah.
He is giving Mother Caleb a good future, no matter what it looks like. The Message says, oh yes, you shaped me for Psalm 139, 13 through 16. Oh yes, you shaped me first inside, then out. You formed me in my mother's womb. I thank you, high God, your breathtaking body, and so I am marvelously made. I worship in adoration. What a creation. You know me inside and out. You know every bone in my body and those they've taken out. You know exactly how I was made, bit by bit, how I was sculpted from nothing into something. Like an open book, you watched me grow from conception to birth. All the stages of my life were spread out before you. The days of my life all prepared before I even lived one day.
Hey, my God.
I even lived one day. So the 4 stages, remember the scripture talked about the stages of my life. So we got the stages of life, stage 1 through 4. The first one is play, imitation, education, birth through adolescence. I'll just go straight through that. Then self-discovery. You know, we're trying to figure out who we are, even up into our 30s.
Yeah.
I think I was 35, maybe 40. I was like, oh, this is who I am.
Uh-huh.
And then that dedication, contemplation, and benevolence. That's where most of us are now. And I don't mean age-wise, I mean seasoned spiritually wise. We're in that. And then the retirement stage, the stage 4, retirement, wisdom, and renunciation, which is the formal rejection of something, typically a belief, claim, or course of action.
Uh-huh.
What we're doing today, we are in the renunciation stage because we are striking out at these myths in the church about mental health illness. Now, it's a reality check. What you need to know is God loves you, regardless. He loves you. 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 We've established that there are myths. We've established what a myth is. We've established what dismantle is. And we've established by way of the word of the Lord that he already knew us. He already formed us. He had it all together. So now what you need to know is how to persist. That's what you need to know, how to persist. And how do you persist? You do exactly what you do every day. You wake up, get up, and go up.
Let's go.
That's what you do.
Let's go.
Every day. Without hesitation.
Without hesitation.
No matter what that rock is in front of you, which will be, we'll say obstacle is in front of you, whether it's housing, a job, career, health, no matter what it is, you will persist in moving that thing because God created you and he already knew this was coming. We just didn't. And even when we inquire, he may not tell us because as Pastor said, I think about a month or so ago, she was giving the presentation, said God told us how many times they would have to go around the Jericho wall. They said, okay, I don't have it one more time to go. But he doesn't tell us those things. He causes us to not only persist, but persist in faith. We've got to stand in faith to know that we can get through it. Then what do you expect? You have to have an expectation of God. My expectation that things are going to work out for me is in nothing and no one but God.
Nobody else.
Nobody else. He may use people because that's what the word of the Lord says.
Yeah.
Pressed down, shaken together, and running over will men give into your bosoms. That they will give wisdom, they will give encouragement, they may give money, they may give items. But that's what the word of God says, and we've established that we've got to persist in our faith in that. So you have to have that expectation of God. No matter what it is, God's got this. God has got this. And when we think that he doesn't have this, despite what you're feeling, it's time to take action. We've got to take action. Whatever that action is for you. For me, it was saying, Elder Pat, my finances are just a mess. I need help. And I'm so overwhelmed about it, I don't even know how to start. And so she said, well, do you mind me accessing your credit report? I said, no. Ain't no shame in my game. I need help. So I had to take action despite what I was feeling, the shame, the embarrassment, to be 58 years old, and not having this, that, and another. Now I had a little nest egg, and it was small because I'd been out of work 12 to 15 years before I went back to work. But I said, okay, God, we can do this. I'm going back to work. Then less than 6 months later, I'm no longer working. So all that was gone. Nothing. I'm 58 years old. We cannot depend on the government to do what the government says they're going to do. I can't sit around waiting for no Social Security check. Mm-hmm. I got to get it. So I had to take action. We've got to take action. And sometimes that action is falling on our knees and asking for help and saying, God, I just don't know. Sitting for 5 minutes, praying in your heavenly language, and then waiting for a response, writing down what God tells you to do, exploring and participating in the disciplines of the church. The disciplines of fasting, of prayer, of solitude, of giving, of serving. It's a whole bunch of disciplines of the church. But those are the actions that we've got to take. And then do what you know to do. We persist, we expect, we act. No, you do know.
You do know.
You do know. You may not want to know, but you do know. You know, I do know that I got to pack up this house. I don't necessarily want to know that, but I do know. And I do know I've got to get rid of a whole lot of things. So, and I'm just using that as a concrete, example. But we know because God instructed us. All throughout his word, we know because he knows, because he said he formed us in our mother's what? Womb. And he knew us before we ever got out of the womb. He knew that. He knew I would be a gammy. He knew that. He knew I won't be another gammy. But, he knew I'd be a gammy. And he knew I'd fall head over heels no matter what I told Apostle Sharon about that little girl. Oh, Lord. I told Apostle Sharon, this is totally tangential. I said, I don't know how y'all have more than one grandbaby. Jesus. My heart is too full. I can't no more love. It's too much. Every time I think of that little girl, I'm like, ooh.
Oh, no.
But we'll move on. Galatians 1:15, the English Standard Version says, but when he who had set me apart, when? Before I was born. And who called me by his grace. Before. He did it before. So those myths surrounding the church that are actually circulating in the church, we're killing it one by one. It's he who had set me apart before I was born. He already knew this was part of my journey. But he also knew, like Paul with his thorn in the flesh, there's a purpose for it. There's a purpose for it. None of our experiences in life, my belief, is just for us. But to set an example.
Right.
And if we're called to set the captives free, they got to know that we've been through something to set them free. Now, this is different from praying through, I'm going to use the babies in here, praying through a drug addict. I don't have to be a drug addict to pray you through.
Right.
I don't have to do that.
Right.
But there's some things I do have to have a pertinent experience if I'm going to minister to you one-on-one.
Right.
I can't keep talking to you about mental health illness and all I know is book knowledge.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
You got to know if I'm trying to win you to Christ ultimately. Because see, what we have to realize is people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
Yeah.
They do not. I don't care what it is. You cannot just go in. If I'm sitting on the corner and it's raining, it's cold, I got my 4 children with me, and we don't have an umbrella or blanket, don't talk to me about John 3:16. Give me a blanket. If you don't give me a blanket, can you find some for my children and some sandwiches of some kind?
Yeah.
Then I'll start listening to you. No matter how much my heart may want to listen to you, I don't care how much you know. I don't want to know about John 3:16. I want to know that you care. I want to know that you are really being Jesus with feet on. Jesus was what? Compassionate.
Yes.
And kind. He went where those that others would consider the derelicts of society hung out. Because that was his mission, which is now our mission. So ignore the myths and just seek help from God. Whatever the situation, it doesn't have to be mental illness. That happens to be my wheelhouse. And I promise every time I get up, I'm not going to talk about this. But that happens to be my wheelhouse. And we need to, it will be beneficial for us to ignore those myths and seek help from God and how to set the other captives free. In whatever area there are, women who've been through abuse or struggle or whatever, that you are empower that word. The young people that you come across. And Brother Jay Sean, the other thing I thought about you today, I mean, I really haven't think about it, is that just by your mere getting involved, the example that you're setting for other young men, and older men too, for that, in the community, and then Elder Pat, and of course, Apostle here, and you, Brother Mars, and you, Brother Marvin, all of us are setting an example to set the captives free. And we just turn to God and say, God, how do I help them today? What do I do today?
Yeah.
Friday, I was standing here and I was talking, and I realized I'm in front of a different group. They're looking at me like I got 2 heads. And they were very engaged. The men really were very engaged. But I realized I had to change the way I spoke. And I finally told, I said, Fry guys, I really don't know this stuff. And my sister told me I'm not even ghetto. So I don't know, and they hard.